What is the favorite subject of our politicians? Kite flying, but yes, that's not a subject. So it's history. Why? Because they can tinker with history, they can twist it, they can use it to suit their agendas. After all, it's often said that history is written by the victor. Is there an attempt underway to rewrite history to suit the right-wing narrative? Is Mahatma Gandhi being gobbled up in this exercise? Is there a campaign underway to give his assassin an image makeover? Now, there is a heated debate between politicians and academicians over all these questions for the last few days. And here is why. The NCERT, or the National Council for Education, Research and Training, has updated, or as they are calling it, rationalized its syllabus for history textbooks. A quick side note, most CBSE schools in India use textbooks published by the NCERT. It's an autonomous organization of the Indian government. So what the NCERT prescribes and publishes is extremely consequential. But this time it has led to a political war because the guy they are messing with is Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. The opposition is accusing the government of using the NCERT to saffronize education. How? By removing references to Mahatma Gandhi's assassination, Nathuram Godse's Brahman identity, and the Gujarat riots. By purging history books of the great dislike Hindu extremists had of Gandhi because of his commitment to Hindu-Muslim unity. We will be looking at all these changes in great detail, what the NCERT is saying about it, and what Mahatma Gandhi's own family has to say about it, and whether what the NCERT is doing amounts to education or indoctrination. But first, listen to the opposition that is taking up arms against the government.
I must say, I think it's part of this reinvention of history that this government has been doing, particularly in those states where they are in power in the state government, and subsequently attempting as well nationally. The excuse appears to be that because of the COVID, students had an extra burden and that burden should be reduced. But the truth is, choosing what to reduce of the burden is also highly selective. And they have chosen to go after their favorite targets, whether it is the Mughal monarchs, whom they obviously are trying to demonize on the grounds of religion and alleged religious persecution and so on, and the voices of people like Mahatma Gandhi, what they stood for, the actions of democratic governments after independence that are not to the liking of the present ruling party. Those are the things that are attempted to be, unfortunately, excised.
History bears testimony to the fact that whosoever has tried to distort history has ended up in the dustbin of history. This has been the trajectory of despots, dictators, authoritarian rulers, that whenever you've tried to rewrite the present, rewrite the past, you've been written out of the present.
Now, as expected, the NCERT has denied all these allegations. They say the deletion is part of a rationalization exercise to reduce the burden on students. They say it was an oversight that people hadn't been informed about the move in advance and nothing has been done purposely. At the same time, interestingly, they have also refused to reverse the controversial changes. Listen in.
Look, it was recommended, but it might be a case of oversight. No? Sometimes everything is not carried out. My, website, who is responsible for the website, Professor A.P. Behra, Joint Director CIT, he also gave his version that it is a matter of omission, just, it might have not been taken care while uploading that content, but it was not purposely. And nothing was deleted or added after the rationalization process.
तुषार गांधी जी के प्रपौत्र जरूर हैं, पर मेरा ख्याल है गांधी जी को अभी तक वो समझ ही नहीं पाए। सिर्फ प्रपौत्र होना ये कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। मैं समझता हूँ महात्मा गांधी का जितना सम्मान, महात्मा गांधी जी के सपनों को साकार करने का काम मोदी जी ने किया है उतना आज तक किसी भी नेता ने नहीं किया। उसका सीधा एक उदाहरण बताता हूँ, स्वच्छ भारत। स्वच्छ भारत का जो सिंबल है वह है महात्मा गांधी का चश्मा।
Okay, so what exactly did the NCERT do? In simple words, they omitted certain things from history textbooks for classes 6 to 12, sort of like a pruning exercise. But here's the problem. While most of these changes were published on the NCERT website, there are certain controversial changes on the Mahatma that were not made. They were not revealed. These changes were reported by the Indian Express on Wednesday. The charge against the NCERT is that the purge was to whitewash the RSS and be soft on Gandhi's killer, Nathuram Godse. Let me list out some parts that were taken out of textbooks. First, the ban on RSS after Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. That part was completely removed. It's a fact. It happened. Why was it removed? Also removed, Gandhi's efforts to bring communal harmony after partition. The textbooks also deleted the reference to Nathuram Godse being a Brahman from Pune. Some parts about the 2002 Gujarat riots have suddenly disappeared from textbooks. So have references to class and caste struggles and ghettoization. Let me read out some of those purged sentences for you. In fact, there are pages. Let's start with this. I'm quoting now. This is a part that has been purged or deleted by the NCERT from their history textbooks. This part says, Gandhi was particularly disliked by those who wanted Hindus to take revenge or who wanted India to become a country for the Hindus. Much like Pakistan had become a country for the Muslims. That sentence has now been removed. Let me add another one. And I'm quoting. The government of India cracked down on organizations that were spreading communal hatred. Organizations like the Rashtra Swayamsevak Sangh were banned for some time. They're talking about the RSS, the parent body or the guiding light of the current ruling dispensation, which is the BJP. This sentence too is gone. You've just heard the opposition. They're not very happy about these changes. They say it amounts to rewriting or reinventing history, which is undoubtedly dangerous. And you can see why. History is a unique subject because it can narrate the past, influence the present, and dictate the future. Not many disciplines have that sort of power over students. What children read and learn in history books will shape their ideology and their approach to politics. If history is objective, it can create responsible and rational citizens. If not, it's almost like propaganda. And this is not the first time that such allegations have emerged. Successive governments, both at the center and the state, have been accused of doing the same thing, exactly the same thing. During Congress rule times, textbooks allegedly focused too much on the Mughal Empire. That history after our independence was written largely by Marxists, so their view was of a particular type, colored. After the Mughal period, the allegation that is made is very often that much of the focus was on the Nehru-Gandhi family and everyone else was ignored. Subhash Chandra Bose was ignored, Sardar Patel was ignored. There are also charges of South Indian history and empires being completely ignored in our history books. In 2002, the first NDA government tried to revamp these textbooks. Parts that were considered Marxist by the BJP were removed from the syllabus. When the UPA came to power, the National Curriculum Framework was reintroduced. Most changes made by the BJP were reversed. Cut to 2014, and the changes picked up speed. Today, there's a long list of controversial subjects that have disappeared from history books. The sequence leading up to the 2002 riots, gone. Vajpayee's criticism of then Chief Minister Narendra Modi on Raj Dharma, gone. Poems by Faiz Ahmad Faiz and certain quotes by Nehru and Ambedkar, gone. Many academicians have spoken out against this trend. They have called it a dangerous attempt to manipulate history. But it also exposes a question about how syllabuses are framed. If successive governments have gamed the system, then the system itself is at fault. While there's no denying that history is political, the same cannot be said about facts. Facts are not political. The RSS being banned in 1948 is a fact. The 2002 Gujarat riots is a fact. It happened. So is the Mughal Empire, which ruled over the Indian subcontinent for 3 centuries. You may not like these facts, but can you change them? No, you cannot. And if you change them, are you lying to the younger generation of this country? And is that okay? That's the question that I'm putting to my guests this evening. Let me go straight across to our guests who are joining us this evening. We have R.S. Pathania, who's a spokesperson of the BJP with us on the broadcast. We have Sujata Paul, spokesperson of the Congress Party as well. We are being joined by Professor Chambi Puranik, who's a retired HOD of political science at the Karnataka State Open University. First, let me get to the academician. Professor Puranik, what do you make of the story that has been playing out since Wednesday? The charge on the NCERT is that they are trying to whitewash Mahatma Gandhi's killer, assassin, Nathuram Godse, and trying to put a soft lens, as it were, on the RSS.
See, history should not be distorted, and the facts of history, whether you suppress or you admit, I mean, that is recorded in the history itself. But as you said in the beginning, the Marxist way of writing history and all that, that can be corrected because Marxists have their own approach. Definitely, they have dominated the writing of Indian history, and from childhood, we have been reading more about Mughals and all that. Such things should not be continued. So there is a need for revision based on the changing times, and also the way the youth and the youngsters should be educated, for their own right perception of the history, not in the way that we look from a political angle or from different kind of revenge attitude and all that. So therefore, I would say the narration you gave, the introduction you gave in the beginning, well, it sets a very clean kind of platform or base, for the focus of rewriting history. History should be rewritten, definitely, because it should not be one-sided. But as you mentioned about Mahatma Gandhi's killer and the allegation against RSS and all that, there is no need to delete it, because over a period of time, things have been clarified. For example, in any court of law, an accused is accused unless he is convicted on the basis of the crime he has committed. Same thing applies to history also from the point of view of a larger interpretation of the past and its relation to the present and all that. So even we are not fascists, but we do teach about Hitler and Mussolini. As a political science professor, I have taught, in order to show how a democratic institution can be misused by a kind of, Hitler, kind of person who came through democratic process for power. How he can usurp power and all. So those are the ways which you can enlighten the young minds. And especially at the school level, I think, history should be treated with a lot of sensibility or sensitiveness, and also in terms of factual narration and all that. Side by side, you can delete 1 or 2 sentences, but you cannot, erase the entire historical consequence. Out of context, any deletion or addition will not convey the kind of meaning that we expect from the teaching of history. That's it.
Yeah,
that's how I
for
look
school
at it.
children, history is written according to the point of view of the person who's writing it. But when it comes to writing history for school children, just let it be a factual narration. Why put a colored lens to it? R.S. Pathania, you're representing the BJP on this show. There are enough people to do propaganda in this country. There are news channels, for example. Let news channels do propaganda for the right or the left. Why drag the NCERT into doing propaganda for the right? Fact is that, things happen. The RSS was banned after Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. That's a fact. That cannot be changed. What's the point of deleting it from NCERT textbooks? Why do you not want to, acknowledge the fact that Mahatma Gandhi stood for Hindu-Muslim unity post the partition, and there were Hindu extremist organizations and people like Nathuram Godse who hated it and therefore assassinated him? These are facts. He was assassinated by Nathuram Godse. It's a fact. Why try to purge it? Why try to purge the fact that the RSS was banned after Mahatma Gandhi's assassination? Why this purge? What will it achieve? This is not a scholarly exercise. This is an exercise in propaganda, is the charge that is coming at the BJP.
Shreya, I was hearing the background before putting us on air. You were trying to put a background, but with due respect, that was only a one side and a very lesser side of the entire truth. You were telling history is written by the victor, but it is suffered by the vanquished also. So that's not like that 30 years back, 40 years back, or 50 years back, whatsoever the NCERT people wrote, that was as good as letters of gold written by some divine authority. So eventuality and we could say the inner urge to resurrect, to reinvent, and to retell the people. You see, NCERT is not an official wing of Bhartiya Janata Party RSS. It is a purely scientific body, autonomous body. So this is just a conspiracy to create a false ideological cultural construct. The sensibilities, exigencies, and nuances of India as a state, India as a culture, India as a civilization, this needs to be known to the generations. Nobody wants to wipe up, and nobody can even dare to wipe up the contribution of Mahatma Gandhi to India before 1947 and India till today also. Nobody can dare to wipe off the blatant truths about how he was murdered, what role was Nathuram. I don't want to enter in what Nathuram Godse did and what happened to what relation he had with Bhartiya Janata Party or Jansangh that time or RSS also. I don't want to go into it. But you see, the point is that I want to just put two questions. I don't want to open a surgery of the entire NCERT history. One, the Cholas ruled India for 1300 years. And why are you so critical about Mughals who ruled India for only 300 years only? Where's the chance of King Lalitaditya, who was called, who extended the frontiers of India up till Central Asia? He was the king of Kashmir. I belong to Jammu and Kashmir. He was the king of Kashmir. How much description do you find about Lalitaditya? And he was the one who was powerful, who promised, and who people do the people of the state of him. He was the one who defeated Tiber. He was the one who liaised with China.
I agree with you.
So that's not like that.
Mr. Pathania. I agree with you.
Please.
Mr. Pathania, I agree with you. I agree with you when you say that history should be rewritten when the time comes. I agree with you that the southern parts of this country were, left out from our history books. I agree with you that their contribution, the contribution of freedom fighters who belong to various parts of this country who were not celebrated, they should be included in our history books. I agree with you. But you cannot reinvent history. You cannot wipe out facts. Is that the exercise underway is the question that is being asked. And whether this is education or whether this is propaganda. Because this purging amounts to lying to students. Look, these are school students we are talking about. These textbooks that are in question are from class 6 to class 12. These are young children. Just give them facts. Don't give them a colored version of history, which is happening right now, or at least that is the charge. Let's get in the Congress party as well. Let's get in the Congress party as well. Sujata Paul, here's the BJP and the spokesperson on this show, and the BJP at large in the last 3 days have been arguing, how on earth do you think we can undermine the contribution of Mahatma Gandhi to this nation and its freedom? If you even see the logo of this government's flagship program, which is the Swachh Bharat program, it's the Chashma of Mahatma Gandhi. So why are you accusing us of something that we aren't doing?
You're absolutely correct. And the Bhartiya Janata Party also knows that they cannot do without Mahatma Gandhi. They might revere Nathuram Godse within the country or endorse Pragya Thakur or even criticize her in indirect terms and say, "Main kabhi maaf nahi karunga," but do nothing about her and give her a ticket the next time also. And I'm talking about when she made that statement about Nathuram Godse being a patriot, and she is the MP of the Bhartiya Janata Party, got a ticket for the second time. Now, when you talk about history, history should be rewritten, but who says that we haven't studied about the Cholas and the Cheras? I studied history only up to class 10, and I definitely remember studying about them. So this distortion of history by the BJP is to suit their purpose. And why I say that is, when you talk about Mahatma Gandhi and his assassin, removing facts about his assassin is to kind of blunt issues about him, blunt the fact that he was who he was. He came from a certain family. He came with a certain baggage, and the reason why he assassinated Mahatma Gandhi was because Mahatma Gandhi believed in establishing communal harmony. And you can see today is a day when we have all been worried about communal harmony being disrupted in the country on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti after Ram Navami. But this has happened only in the last 2 years, and this is why they want to blunt history. But by changing history, can they actually change facts like you mentioned? And one last thing, that maybe now they can talk about how Gautam Adani had a cart of clothes that he used to work with, and then he became the 609th richest person of the world. And from there, in the last 9 years, less than 9 years, he rose to the second. Maybe that will build nationalism in people. I don't know what the Bharatiya Janata Party wants to do, and definitely they are interfering with the syllabus, which they shouldn't.
I will just do a quick, you've narrated your experiences with your history book. I can tell you with my history book, I read more about the Mughals and not as much about, the kingdoms that were established and flourished in the south. So that one point is absolutely correct. There has been extra focus on the Mughals and, lesser focus, as I said, on other kingdoms and other rulers, etc. So that's one point I take from the BJP. I'm going to thank all three of you.